Solanke has now officially made his big money move to Spurs, and the big question on all FPL managers' lips right now is he essential for our game week 1 team? So in this video, I'm going to deep dive specifically onto that and whether we should actually be putting him into our team. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure you do drop a like and of course, smash that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. We're less than a week away. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So we've officially had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano confirming Solanke to Spurs, and all in all I think this is a really good transfer for both player and club. I think Spurs in particular under the tenure of Ange have really missed out on that focal point in this team. I think Richarlison has done an okay job but clearly isn't the solution for Ange, and we've seen Son play up front when while that is great for FPL isn't necessarily great for Spurs as a general team. So I do think Solanke coming into this Spurs team is great for both the player and the club. And of course, off the back of a 19-goal season last year for Solanke, I think we always know there's a player there. The big question is, can he step up into a team challenging for top 4? And that hopefully will get answered this season. And I really am bullish on this transfer for someone like a Solanke. The big question is he actually an option for our FPL team? So I want to look at the pros and cons regarding him. Of course, ignore the Bournemouth top because he is now officially a Spurs player. So a couple of pros regarding Solanke going into your Game Week 1 teams. First and foremost, we are expecting him to play in Game Week 1. Now, I know he is off for his medicals today, and Game Week 1 is particularly on Sunday for Spurs. But I'm looking at these quotes here from Ange regarding previous times when they have actually brought in players and whether they are actually ready to go. And you can see here, based on this quote, it is promising that Solanke could actually just be available for Game Week 1. The transfers that they make basically mean that they should be ready to hit the ground running. They've done it with Van der Ven before. They basically profile a player based on the system that Spurs have. And realistically, Solanke should be built for the Ange system. It shouldn't take weeks and weeks and weeks for him to actually understand his job in this team. And with Richarlison getting literally no minutes in pre-season, I could see Solanke coming straight into Game Week 1. So I don't think we have to have huge concerns about that. In terms of the fixtures, they are fantastic for the opening 2. Leicester away, I think that is going to be a goal-scoring game. And then Everton at home is a different beast to that of Goodison Park. So I think the opening 2 are brilliant. And in particular, maybe if you're a manager that's looking to do an early wildcard around Game Week 3 or Game Week 4, I think we've always been looking at getting a piece of that Spurs attack, but Son being at 10 million, difficult to justify. People like Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski, we know they have the opportunity to do well, but we also don't have that gut feeling that they are the right asset for us. And at 1 million more expensive, getting someone that we're probably going to have guaranteed game time with Solanke and a focal point in that attack, I think we feel a bit more confident investing 7.5 million in Dominic Solanke, even though he is a new player into this team. The problem with the fixtures, and we're going to come on to the cons quickly in a minute, is longer term, I don't like these fixtures at all. Game Week 3 away against Newcastle, Game Week 4 against Arsenal, Game Week 6 away against Man United while it is red flagged. I don't think it's a terrible fixture, to be honest with you, but ideally, if I'm paying 7.5 million for a forward, I'd probably want better long-term fixtures, in particular when we have people like Watkins, Isak, Haaland, Muniz of Fulham, obviously, who have decent proven track records and good fixtures. So I would probably say with Solanke that he's incredible for the first 2, but you might go through some pain in Game Weeks 3 and 4 if you're looking at maybe doing a Game Week 6 wildcard. And in terms of his underlying numbers last season, 0.39 expected goals, non-penalty per 90. Of course, very difficult to get an understanding what we're going to see with Solanke. Can he carry these numbers over into this Spurs team? Now, his expected goals was more around 0.45, but that was including penalties. I don't think we actually know whether he will be the designated penalty taker in this Spurs team. Someone like Son has taken them in the past. We could very well just see Son continue with penalties while Solanke embeds himself in this Spurs team. So I don't think it is an absolute guarantee that Solanke just walks into the team and is the penalty taker. So I'm looking more at these numbers without penalties. But I do need to state that we don't really know what we're going to get with Solanke in terms of his output because it is a completely different team and system. But Spurs in general, from an attacking perspective, I always view as a team that can score goals. So I actually think the team in general are built for Solanke to actually score goals in this team. I don't think he's been brought in to be a false 9 that comes deep to link up play like we saw Harry Kane in previous seasons. So I really think Solanke's numbers could actually improve rather than decrease in this attacking Spurs team. Now, of course, there are problems with this transfer. We spoke about the long-term fixtures. They're not ideal for people maybe that don't have confidence in Spurs between game week 3 and game week 6. And we've also touched on the penalty situation. Not ideal if you're paying 7.5 million and not getting a penalty taker. And the final con in terms of him that I haven't really mentioned here is the fact that it's just that uncertainty. A new transfer, sometimes you just don't want to take risks in your game week 1 squad. And even though Solanke is a proven forward in the Premier League, it might just be one of those where he might take a couple of games just to embed himself in this Spurs team and things might not click. But equally, with those opening fixtures, they very may well just click and he goes off on one. So my conclusion is this on Solanke. I think if you're wildcarding in game week 4, I think we've always wanted a piece of the Spurs attack. I actually really like going for Dominic Solanke. The downside is that, of course, it is going to change your structure of your team. And we're going to come on to that now on how these drafts will look, because I think it might force a lot of managers to really commit to a 3-forward strategy. So we'll take a look at that now, but I think Solanke needs to be on your radar, and I think if it's an early wildcard draft planned, he definitely should be coming into your team if you're happy to take the risk. So here I've built a team going into game week 1 that includes Dominic Solanke, and you can see here there are many different variations that you can do with your team. So I'm not sitting here saying to you this is the absolute best team that you can build, because of course this one that I've built, we will come on to some others in a minute, includes Mo Salah and includes Erling Haaland. So you might be slightly different, but I'll show you some of those teams in a minute with this video. So I think when you bring in Dominic Solanke, the first thing that we do need to note is that a lot of managers right now that are going for Salah and Erling Haaland are having Alexander Isak as well. His ownership is one of the most in the game. And then they're looking to have a third forward between 5.5 million and 6 million. So a Muniz or maybe someone like an Armstrong at Southampton. If you commit to the Dominic Solanke route and you want to keep Mo Salah and Erling Haaland, the first thing I need to say is I don't think Solanke is better than Alexander Isak. So if you're building a team and you're saying to yourself, I want Solanke instead of Alexander Isak, I think that's the wrong move. I would not be doing that at all. I think if you bring Solanke in and you're keeping the big hitters of Salah and Erling Haaland, then you're going for a power front 3 of this. And that, of course, spending 1.5 million more on your front line is going to have negative impacts on the rest of the team. I think naturally with the midfield, if you're going to go Salah, you then kind of lose that 8.5 million midfielder. So here we've got Eze at 7, Jacob Murphy at 5.5 million, Nkunku at 6.5 and Rodgers at 5 million. Now, you can squeeze an 8.5 in here if you really are committed to an Arsenal attacker like a Martin Odegaard. But then we need to free up 1.5 million. And that probably will see us downgrade Rodgers to a 4.5, give us that 0.5 million. And then we're probably looking to take a million out of the defence, which may see Muniz down to a 4.5. And it might even see us commit another 4.5 million defender to a 4 million. And that may give us a bit of a better midfield, but I think the overall balance of the team is then going to be negatively impacted for the worse, of course. So this is the sort of team you can build, and I really do think it is well balanced. But of course, if you're going for this team, it's really important that you are basically playing a 3-4-3 system every single game week while you keep it. There's no world where you're paying this sort of money for these attackers and benching one of them depending on the fixture. You're committed to this front 3. You'll most likely go for Salah, Eze, Nkunku, and then you'll be rotating Murphy and Rodgers depending on the fixture that they do have. And then, of course, we'll be rotating our 4.5 million defenders based on their fixture that they do have. So this is an example of a Solanke team. I'm going to show you another one now that doesn't include Erling Haaland to give you a bit of an idea on how that money could be spent elsewhere with your teams. Now, if you're an FPL manager that is really committed to not having Erling Haaland, then it is really interesting to see if we include Dominic Solanke as part of that front 3, what else you can do with that money. So, of course, with this team here, I think a lot of people, if you're not going for Erling Haaland, have Watkins and Alexander Isak. Once again, I don't think Solanke displaces either of those two forwards over the longer term. I think maybe Solanke could outscore Watkins in the first 2, but over the 6, I still would back Watkins as your choice. So I think you're still putting Solanke in as part of a front 3. And again, this is why I think it's really important. I think whatever structure you're going for, whether you're going without Erling Haaland, I still think you go for a power front 3. Similarly, if you're going without a Salah, I think you're still going for a power 3. So that is why I think no matter what you do, you're probably committed to a 3-4-3 formation with your squads. I think there are too many good forwards outside of Dominic Solanke. I haven't even included someone like a Kai Havertz, for example. That is a fantastic choice. Now, again, if you're going without Erling Haaland with your squads and you're keeping Mo Salah, I've made 4 changes to the previous draft that I showed you, just to try and keep it a little bit simple. So, for example, here, we've upgraded Crystal Palace's Munoz to Trent Alexander-Arnold, getting yourself a piece of that Liverpool defence, which looks really attractive with those opening fixtures. We've then downgraded someone like a Konsa to a Hardwood Bellis. So we're committed here to playing Trent and Vardy out every single week. And then you might be able to rotate Robinson with one of those 2 4 million defenders in our squads, which I don't think is a bad strategy at all. Then, of course, we've upgraded Murphy. One of the biggest upgrades in this team is to Bukayo Saka. So we're taking out one of those Newcastle attackers, but we are getting a piece of that Arsenal attack in the shape of Bukayo Saka. And let's be real, I think we all know Arteta is going to roll out Saka. He's back in pre-season, played their most recent game against Leverkusen. I fully expect him to play, and he is rightly so the best Arsenal midfielder at 10 million. I think Odegaard is a good alternative, but if you could afford Saka, you just get him into your teams. Being on penalties is just a huge pull in FPL. And finally, of course, we've downgraded Erling Haaland to Ollie Watkins. I think we all know Ollie Watkins is a phenomenal FPL option, but I think Alexander Isak's price at 8.5 has kind of made Watkins not redundant, but very much second fiddle to someone like an Alexander Isak in the game. So I think this team here, I don't think it's necessarily better, but you can see what that Haaland money does to the rest of your squad. You get some other premiums in that team where you haven't had it previously. And what I do like about having this draft is that you have different price points. So for example, having Trent, the most expensive defender, means that you can downgrade to any defender in the game if one of those was to emerge as an essential option in the opening game weeks. And likewise with Bukayo Saka, while we had Mo Salah and then we had a 7 million midfielder, we've got that midfielder in that really competitive price range between 9.5 and 10.5 million. So if Saka eventually doesn't become an option, we can try and upgrade that to a Cole Palmer, or we could go sideways to a Son, or down to a Phil Foden if he suddenly starts to hit the ground running. And that is why I think with this draft, it is going to be very, very attractive to some FPL managers out there if they were to go without Erling Haaland. So let me know your thoughts in the comments regarding the drafts, the inclusion in Dominic Solanke. I just wanted to make sure that this video was very short, ad hoc, but covered off whether I think Dominic Solanke is worth bringing into your FPL teams. Yes, guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video regarding Dominic Solanke. I just wanted to do a very quick video regarding whether he should be in your teams or not. And based on the numbers, based on the fixtures, I think my conclusion is that if you're going for an early wildcard, I think Dominic Solanke is an unbelievable option at 7.5 million. I think the fixtures are good. I think his game time will be fantastic based on what we've seen with Ange. And I really think he is a brilliant way into that Spurs attack, which I think we all want a piece of it, but we had no confidence in the other assets available. So I think if I'm on a wildcard 4 pick, Solanke comes in and we go for a powerful forward line, but it will take some sacrifices in the rest of the squad, which you have seen in this video. I really hope it provided some value. Of course, it was a very quick video here, slightly different to the other ones, but there will be a live stream later on tonight, fingers crossed, which we can deep dive into some other drafts, and there will be daily fantasy content between now and that Friday deadline. So if you're not already, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.